Today, a report from Hollywood, where people who get paid too much money to pretend to be someone they're not, pretend to know about things they don't, in order to alienate an audience they despise, in the hopes of being paid too much money to pretend to be someone they're not to an audience they despise. That's showbiz. Our story today is about Nick Adams of GLAAD. GLAAD, G-L-A-A-D, used to stand for Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, until GLAAD announced it was broadening its mission to include transgender people and issued a statement saying GLAAD would no longer stand for anything, but would just be a series of random letters that accidentally sounds like being happy, but isn't. Nick Adams of GLAAD's transgender media program is protesting. What is he protesting? He's protesting the fact that Hollywood movies about transgender women too often use straight male actors who dress up as women to portray men who dress up as women. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, Andrew, you sly devil. How is it a man as physically alluring as yourself could harbor the brilliant satirical intelligence that concocts these overblown fantasies of leftist insanity in order to bring a little humor and light into our humdrum, ordinary lives? But no, while it's true I am terribly attractive, I am not actually making this up. In an article for The Hollywood Reporter, Nick Adams of Random Letters Spelling GLAAD writes, quote, "In spite of the critical and commercial success of projects that put trans people front and center, Hollywood is having a very difficult time letting go of the idea that putting a male actor in a dress, wig, and makeup is an accurate portrayal of a transgender woman." Unquote. How true. In what moral universe could it possibly be right to hire actors to portray people different than themselves? Do you think Matt Damon would have been hired to play Jason Bourne if he weren't really an amnesiac super assassin seeking to take down the CIA? Of course not. That would be like hiring Sean Penn to play an intelligent man of integrity. The audience simply wouldn't buy it. In fact, it was only Sean Penn's support of Hugo Chavez that gave Penn the credibility to play a retarded man in I Am Sam. But really, when you think about it, Nick Adams of Random Letters Spelling GLAAD is making a very serious point. Your average transgender woman isn't just some straight male actor wearing a dress, wig, and makeup. He's probably never acted a day in his life. He may not even be straight. After all, what straight man would walk around in a dress, wig, and makeup? The whole idea is absurd. Hollywood has got to realize that when a man declares he's a woman, his opinion of himself has to be respected. After all, if he declared he was Napoleon, we'd let him rule France, wouldn't we? Of course we would. It'd have to be better than whoever's doing it now. And that's today's report from Hollywood, where relevance is just a word that means irrelevance. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. Guy, I'm glad somebody has time on his hands to protest things that really mean nothing to anybody. All right, boy, you know, there's a poem, I can't remember which poem it is, that has the line in it, where every prospect pleases and only man is vile. And I think it was written in, the 19th century, but he was describing Los Angeles because this place is beautiful. The weather today is unbelievably great. The traffic is so jammed up. We have to give a big hand to Taylor Payne, our makeup lady who did my makeup on the fly. So if I look like the Joker from one of the Dark Knight movies, that's why. But no, I look great, right? She did a great job. Good job. All right, it's Mailbag Day. Hooray! And we're going to try something. We're going to try something completely new today. The people may get hurt doing this. We're going to take the questions that you sent in earlier, but if you want, if you're a subscriber, you can actually send in questions while I'm talking and live chat on the because if you're a subscriber, you can watch this entire show on the Daily Wire site all the way through. If you're not, you can see 15 minutes on Facebook or YouTube, and then we just cut you off as if we never cared about you in the first place and throw you out into the darkness. Or you can come to the Daily Wire and hear the rest of the show, or hear it on SoundCloud or iTunes, until you finally pry your fingers off that lousy $8 a month and subscribe to see the whole thing. And then you can actually be in the mailbag and we'll answer your questions. Also, final week to pre-order my memoir, The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ. And you can send it in for a signature sticker by sending your receipt to aklavan@dailywire.com. And I should warn you, by the way, that next week I will be gone 2 days because I have to go and promote the book on TV. So Monday and Tuesday, it's going to be a long Klavanless weekend. I know it's going to be tough. All right. So yesterday, our friend Donald Trump, who I think he's running for something, right? He's not just a businessman. Yeah, he's actually running for president as a Republican. But yesterday, he unveiled his child care plan. He said his daughter, Ivanka, came to him and said, Daddy, Daddy, you have to have a child care plan. And there's nothing I like better than a strong feminist woman shouting, Daddy, Daddy. In fact, I think I have a sexual fantasy like that, but I can't remember now. Maybe that's too much information. But he said, Daddy, Daddy, you have to have a child care plan. So he unleashed a child care plan. And let's hear just a little bit of what he had to say.
These solutions must update laws passed more than a half a century ago when most women were still not in the labor force. Most of them weren't even close. Today, nearly 2 in 3 mothers with young children have jobs. For many families in our country, child care is now the single largest expense. Who would think that? Even more so than housing. Yet very little meaningful policy work has been done in this area, and my opponent has no child care plan. She never will, and if it ever evolves into a plan, it'll never get done anyway. All talk, no action.
All right. Now, first of all, just in the interest of fairness, that's actually not true. Hillary Clinton has had a child care plan up. Even before she was running, she had a child care plan up. I mean, a Democrat without a child care plan is like a day without sunshine. You know, Democrats have a child care plan. They walk around with it in their wallet like teenagers with a condom. You know, they have their child care plan. And hers is, you know, of course, even more elaborate than Trump's. But Trump is pretty elaborate. He's going to rewrite the tax code, allowing working parents to deduct from their income taxes for child care expenses for up to 4 children, as well as for elderly dependents. There's an establishment of a dependent care savings account created to aid families to set aside money to foster their children's development and offset elder care. And the third part of the plan will address the federal regulations that currently discourage informal child care, such as a mom watching her own kids. The fourth part is really the big one. It adds incentives for employers. The fourth part adds incentive for employers to provide child care at the workplace, and it has the federal government is essentially guaranteeing for the first time 6 weeks of paid maternity leave. And I believe Hillary Clinton's plan is 12 weeks for everybody to leave. I think if you have a baby, your entire staff just disappears and takes care of this. Now, the important thing about that, obviously Trump has to do this. He is polling very badly among women. Because he offends them, cheats on them, and treats them like garbage. And somehow some of them don't like that. I was always told that that's what they wanted. But no, it turns out they won't vote for you if you do that. And so he's rolled out this thing, and this is supposed to appeal to women and get him and make people also think. I mean, partly it's because he's a Democrat. He's a lifelong Democrat, and he's a liberal, and so this is what he's applying. And Charles Krauthammer said it best on the panel yesterday. This was his reaction to the plan.
Trump himself is the one who brings up the deficit and the debt all the time as a sign of our decline, as a sign of having government out of control and having incompetence in government. Look, I think this raises the question of how many Democratic parties does the country need? We already have one. And I thought during the primary season the argument for Trump was he was a guy who would stand up to the Washington Republican sold-out establishment that refused to stand up to Barack Obama on higher spending, refused to stand up to him on entitlements, refused to stand up to him on executive actions. And therefore, we needed an outsider, a disruptor named Donald Trump, who would not do this. What he is proposing is to out-Democrats the Democrats. This is an enormous new entitlement. It will blow the debt. And when he says the mandate, he's going to mandate from Washington. Isn't that the one thing that Republicans all agree upon, of the government stepping in and telling private industry what to do? He says that will be paid for by taking out waste, fraud, and abuse from the unemployment insurance system. If you believe that, you will believe anything.
Okay. So now this is what makes the NeverTrumpers, like our friend Ben, this is what makes NeverTrumpers crazy. It's not so much that Trump is throwing in this Democrat plan, because a lot of Republicans do that. W threw in that prescription medicine plan and all this. It's that people are so devoted, so many formerly conservative voices are so devoted to Donald Trump that they are signing on to whatever it is he does. So Laura Ingraham, a conservative voice for many, many years. Sean Hannity, conservative voice for many, many years. who were tweeting when Bernie Sanders was running. Laura Ingraham was tweeting, "Oh, she's going to give everybody free childcare. It's going to be free." She was making fun of him. Now suddenly she's kind of judiciously saying, "Well, we'll have to see where this is going to be paid for." It's not going to be paid for. First of all, it's not going to be enacted if the Congress remains Republican, but it's not going to be paid for because there's just no way to pay for these entitlements. And the basic principle of conservatism, the basic problem conservatism has with all these entitlement programs is not that we're heartless. It's not that we don't care about working families and all this stuff. It's that basically when you go to work every day and somebody gives you a check for the money for the work you did, they are paying you for your time. That is time taken out of your life that you put into working that you get money in return for. For the government, the idea of that is now that you have transformed your time into money. You can now spend that money and invest that money as you see fit. That is the very nature of your freedom. Freedom actually has a lot less to do with who you sleep with than how you spend your money and what you think and what you say. And those are always the things that the government is trying to take away from you. The government doesn't care who you sleep with. That causes no problem for them whatsoever. They care what you say and they care how you spend your money. Conservatives simply believe that if you earn the money, it's yours, and the government has a right to take it away from you to pay for the common defense, maybe to pay for a couple of roads here and there. I'm not so sure about that, but not to give it to somebody else. Not to say, oh, well, you want to use your money to pay Giuseppe to cook you pasta, but no, you can't do that. We want to use your money to pay someone else to take care of someone else's child. It's just a basic conservative principle that the government does not have the right to do that it's not in the Constitution, so the federal government doesn't have the right to do it. Whether the state governments do is a whole other question, and certainly whether independent entities who want to create charities to do it, obviously that is the best conservative idea. Because remember, and the reason Republicans think this, the reason conservatives think this is the government is never selling, it's always buying. It is never giving you freedom, it is always taking power. This is true whether you're gay or whether you're black, and they're saying to you, we're giving you the power through the Supreme Court, we're giving you the power to marry. They're not. They're taking away from you the power to decide and giving it to 5 guys in Washington who weren't elected by anybody, who suddenly are making laws for the country, which is completely unconstitutional. They're always taking power. They're never giving freedom. Never. So anything that the federal government does is meant to expand the federal government, and it does. The intentions may be good. Some people believe, I'm really helping out. I get it. But that's the road to hell. So what the NeverTrumpers are saying, and what the NeverTrumpers' problem is that this is taking the conservative movement and moving it to the left. This is taking our Sean Hannitys and our Laura Ingrahams and our Dennis Pragers and taking them out of the right and putting them to the left as they follow Trump down this rabbit hole, and which is going to continue to get bigger all the time because this is who Trump is. Trump is following his nature. So what they are saying is it might even be better if we had to endure the admittedly terrible presidency of Hillary Clinton while we rebuild a conservative movement. And remember, movements thrive when they have an enemy. So you have Hillary Clinton in office, people gathering around, what's wrong with what she's doing. When Hillary Clinton says, I'm going to give you child care, suddenly Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham are going to rediscover what it is they oppose about child care, and they're going to go after her. So that's the idea that the NeverTrumpers are saying. It's going to be easier to rebuild the conservative movement with a Hillary in office, no matter how bad she is, than with Trump, who's going to not only take the country to the left, but he's going to take the conservative movement with it. And that's what the NeverTrumpers are saying. And I will tell you what I think in just a minute. But first, I have to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook and YouTube. Come over to the Daily Wire and hear the rest and subscribe, darn you.